पहिलाको पिरियडमा हामीहरूले चाहिँ यो हाइड्रोलोजीको कोर्स अफ स्टडीकै बारेमा चाहिँ नि डिस्कस गरे जस्तो लाग्छ। त्यही थियौँ हामीहरू होइन। अब आज म तिमीहरूलाई चाहिँ नि आज म चाहिँ नि मेरो चाहिँ स्क्रिन तिमीहरूलाई सेयर गर्छु र हामी जहाँ थियौँ अस्तिको पालि त्यही जहाँ लाँदैछु र मैले आज चाहिँ पहिलो च्याप्टर पनि सकभर यो सिलेबस सकिसकेपछि पहिलो च्याप्टर सक्ने चाहिँ नि प्रयास गर्छु है। अब यो लास्टमा चाहिँ नि यो हाइड्रोलोजिकल लसेस भन्नेमा चाहिँ नि यो गइसकेका छौँ। Hutton's equation, infiltration indices, infiltrometers, we discuss all about it. Runoff, in chapter 4 we study about the runoff, the portion of water that flows from the surface of the earth towards the river or stream is called runoff. The factors, which are the factors that affect the runoff? These are the drainage basin characteristics, and that should be dealt in 4.1. In 4.2, factors affecting runoff from the catchment and other parameters, meteorological parameters, catchment parameters, soil parameters, etc. are considered for the runoff. And that's why in 4.2 we told about the factors affecting runoff. In 4.3, rainfall runoff relationship between the rainfall and runoff. If we know the rainfall and runoff value of the previous years or previous trend, then we can estimate, we can find the rainfall runoff relations by using the equations, and this is dealt in 4.3. In 4.4, stream gauging. Stream gauging means the depth of stream flow is measured from the gauging stations. Where should be the sites should be selected. What types of gauges are used to measure the stream gauges? What types of gauges and how can we measure them is dealt in chapter 4.4. In 4.5, stream flow measurement by velocity area method. Discharge of the flow can be measured by using velocity and the area of the section, that is Q is equal to area into velocity. The velocity of flow can be measured by using current meter, floats as well as the velocity rods. In 4.6, stream flow computation by slope area method. This method is basically uses the principle of Bernoulli's theorem. There the energy balance is there. The energy of the kinetic energy, potential energy, and the energy and the change in energy is considered for determining the discharge of the flow. This is the analytical method. This can be used. This method is called slope area method, considering the two sections of the river where the energy flow is measured. In 4.7, development of the rating curve. This curve is simply the discharge versus the time. The rating discharge versus depth of flow is the rating curve. And this rating curve, if we know the rating curve, we can find the any value of with respect to any value of discharge, the value of depth of flow can be measured, or with respect to any value of depth of flow, the discharge can be measured easily from the rating curve. This is the graphical approach of finding the, if one parameter is known, second parameter can be found out by using the rating curve. This can be dealt in 4.7. In 4.8, estimation of monthly flow from the rainfall. How can we estimate the flow discharge? How can we estimate the flow discharge according to the monthly flow or rainfall data of that month? Can be dealt using the methods developed by the hydrometeorology of Nepal, and that can be done using the monthly flow from the rainfall. In chapter 5, hydrograph analysis is chapter 5 is for hydrograph analysis, which contains 7 hours of time period to complete this chapter. Here, what is hydrograph? What are the components of a hydrograph? How can we separate the base flow? The component of hydrograph is nothing. It is a plot between the discharge of flow and the time of duration of rainfall, or duration of flow. Using the hydrograph technique, we can find the maximum flow discharge of that area produced by the rainfall over the entire time. If the rainfall occurs for 1 hour, then that hydrograph, which contains the 1 centimeter of excess rainfall that produce the runoff of 1 centimeter towards the river or stream, that hydrograph is called unit hydrograph. With the help of a unit hydrograph, we can find any other depth hydrograph, so that the maximum discharge of the hydrograph, maximum value of the hydrograph peak will be the maximum discharge of flow that can be calculated using the hydrograph technique. Hydrograph analysis technique can be done in chapter 5. The components of hydrograph. What are the components of hydrograph? It has the rising limb, it has the peak, it has the falling limb, etc. as a component of hydrograph. That is dealt in 5.1. In 5.2, separation of base flow. Hydrograph, the curve of the hydrograph is the combination of surface runoff as well as subsurface runoff. The subsurface runoff that rejects the river is the late flow. That late flow towards the river is from the underground flow towards the river is also called delay flow. That delay flow is also called base flow. The resulting flood of the hydrograph, which is also called direct runoff hydrograph. That with the help of direct runoff hydrograph, we can find derivate the unit hydrograph from the direct runoff hydrograph. In that case, we have to separate the contribution of the base flow. We have to separate the flood hydrograph. We have to separate the base flow contribution or delay flow contribution that is done. That water coming towards the river through the subsurface flow has to be reduced from the flood hydrograph to find the direct runoff hydrograph. So base flow separation is dealt in 5.2. In 5.3, unit hydrograph, their uses and limitations. What is unit hydrograph? What are their uses, and where we cannot use the unit hydrograph analysis technique? That is dealt in 5.3. In 5.4, derivation of unit hydrograph from isolated and complex system. How we develop the unit hydrograph from the single storm or more than one storm. That is dealt in 5.4. In 5.5, derivation of unit hydrograph of different duration. The unit hydrograph of different duration means 1 hour unit hydrograph, 2 hour unit hydrograph, 3 hour unit hydrograph, 4 hour, 6 hour, 8 hour, 10 hour, 24 hour, 12 hour unit hydrograph can be derived from one unit hydrograph to the another unit hydrograph. How can we derive the unit hydrograph of different duration from given surface runoff hydrograph or given unit hydrograph, given hour of unit hydrograph? If you are provided with the 2 hour unit hydrograph, you can develop the 3 hour unit hydrograph from the 2 hour unit hydrograph. You can also develop 1 hour unit hydrograph from the 2 hour unit hydrograph. You can also develop 12 hour unit hydrograph from the given 2 hour unit hydrograph. This is the derivation of a unit hydrograph of different duration from given duration. That is dealt in 5.5. In chapter 6, which is allocated for 7 hours, it consists of 6.1, 6.2 and 6.3. 6.1, design flood, and what is design flood, what is frequency of flood, what is return period of the flood, and that is also called known as frequency of flood. That is dealt in 6.1. What are the statistical methods of flood prediction? How can you predict the flood? How can you determine the maximum flood discharge in the river? By using the statistical approach. These are the 6.2.1, 6.2.2, 6.2.3, 6.2.4, 6.2.5. These all are the methods of prediction of the flood in the river using the statistical techniques. Continuous probability distribution, we can use continuous probability distribution, we can use return period frequency and risk factor, we can use plotting position frequency factor, return period frequency analytics. This is the binomial distribution or frequency analysis probability approach of the measurement of the determination of the flood. In plotting position method, frequency factor and the plotting position method, the return period is calculated. And the maximum flood discharge is also calculated. Similarly, log Pearson type 3 distribution and Gumbel's extreme value distribution is also analytical method for determining the flood that is likely to be occurred in the certain river, and that is we can predict the flood with the available data of the past flood records. We can find the how much and what discharge that will be appear in that river in the coming year or coming days. That can be predicted by a log Pearson type 3 method as well as Gumbel's extreme value probability method. We can predict the flood discharge. Similarly, flood prediction by rational and empirical methods. Different empirical methods are developed by the hydrologists as well as scientists to predict the flood value. These methods are basically they develop these methods from their experiment and develop their own formula to find the peak flood using different techniques. Similarly, rational method is widely used all over the world to find the discharge value by using the formula Q is equal to CIA divided 360. We see the coefficient of runoff of that area. I is equal to intensity of rainfall. A is equal to area of the that catchment. CIA upon 360. This formula can also be used. This formula is called a rational formula, and rest other formulas are developed by the hydrologists and scientists to find the peak discharge of the flow from their experiment and experience, and that is called empirical methods of flood prediction, which is dealt in 6.3. In 7, flood routing is allocated for 5 hours. Flood routing, linear reservoir routing, time area method, clock methods. These are the methods to predict the flood value after the flood flows from the hydraulic structure to the downstream side. How the blocked flood by the such structures after topping from the structures or letting out from the such structures will rise to the downstream side of the area to have the peak value of the flood. When the peak discharge appears after passing the structures, when and what amount of discharge may be developed there, that is predicted. That prediction is done in flood routing. These are the methods: linear reservoir routing, time area method, and Clark unit hydrograph method is used to predict the maximum flood value and the time of that flood value from the maximum from the outflow hydrograph analysis. From the outflow hydrograph analysis, the peak discharge of the flood is routed in this chapter. This is related to the flood routing, which is allocated for 7 hours. Now you have the tutorial also. You have the tutorial also related to all these chapters. There are so many tutorials. Estimation of missing rainfall data, test for inconsistent rainfall data, estimation of mean rainfall over an area by 3 methods, estimation of potential evapotranspiration by Feynman's equation, use of Horton's equation, and problem related to infiltration indices, discharge computation by velocity area and slope area method, determination of stage at zero discharge and preparation of rating curve, determination of unit height graph, and from the isolated and complex system, derivation of unit height graph of different duration, drainage basin characteristics, estimation of design frequency of a design floor, estimation of floor by plotting position and distribution, estimation floor by rational and empirical method, flow routing by and the Clark unit height graph. These, with respect to this tutorial, the time is allocated here. Time is allocated here, but this allocated time of 15 hours is not sufficient for doing the tutorial. So we are focusing much more time for the tutorial classes, because in the exam numerical program comes in problems have the more weightage in the examination question. So theoretical portion is little. So theoretical portion is also important, but if the weightage of theoretical marks is low in comparison to the numerical problem. So I will focus much more time for the tutorial portion. These are the course content and references. These are the references which is given you. These are not the textbook. These are the references. These are the references which you can use these books for the hydrology subject. And the references are Engineering Hydrology by K. Subramania. This is the main course book, which is written by the Indian writer. And this book is basically used fruitful for the theoretical aspect of hydrology. Numerical problems are not solved more. More numerical problems are not solved here. Only the theoretical aspect is more considered in this book. And Engineering Hydrology by R.S. Vase. This is also the Indian writer's book. Engineering Hydrology by B.L. Gupta. Engineering Hydrology by Dr. K.N. Dulal and Sanjeev Barar. This book is written by the Nepalese writer. This book is written by the Nepalese writer, and it is according to the course of our content. Course of content. So this book can be useful. You can buy this book also. Irrigation and Drainage Hydrologic Structures by S.K. Garg. This book is very much fruitful for us, because the irrigation engineering and the hydrology as well as hydropower engineering concept are also there in this book. That's why this book can be very useful for the three subjects: hydrology, irrigation, as well as hydropower engineering. This book can be used. So you can buy this one book, Irrigation and Hydrologic Structures by S.K. Garg. Please buy this book, or you can buy the if you want to buy only hydrology book, then you can buy Engineering Hydrology by Dr. K.N. Dulal and Sanjeev Barar. This book can be used. Hydrology for Engineers by Lindsley Kovlar and Paul Haas. This is the foreign writer's book. You can use this book for the theoretical approach only, because in numerical problem the symbols and units may be different. They can use different symbols rather than symbols we use in our class. And the system of unit of measurement in this system is FPS system. We use SI units, SI system, but in this book FPS system is used. So it will be very hard to understand that terms. So this book may be only used for the theoretical approach. Applied Hydrology by B.T. Cho, D.R. Midman and Dolmet is also the foreign writer's book. You can borrow, you can buy I want to focus for irrigation and hydrologic structures by S.K. Garg. If you don't afford this book, then you can use Engineering Hydrology by Dr. K.N. Dulal and Sanjeev Barar. Now this is for the course of the study. Now I will go to the next slide from the chapter 1. From the chapter 1.
सर स्लाइड नहीं शेयर भएको छैन.
I'll share the slide later. Then I am just discussing about the course of content. Course of content of engineering hydrology only. Now I will share my screen to you for the chapter 1. तिमीहरुकोमा स्क्रिनमा यो शेयर भयो अब? हेलो
हजुर सर भयो
ल मैले अघिसम्म कोर्स अफ स्टडीको बारेमा अलिअलि भनेको त्यो अस्ति पनि तिमीलाई मैले त्यो कोर्स अफ स्टडीको शेयर गरेर भनेको थिएँ. त्यहाँ भएको चिजलाई मैले छिटो सक्नलाई तिमीलाई शेयर नगरिकन मघिर रूपमा खर्र भनेर सकेको अवस्था हो है. अब म पहिलो च्याप्टरमा जाँदैछु. इन्ट्रोडक्सन भन्ने च्याप्टर छ. यो 2 आवरमा यो सक्नुपर्छ. त्यो इन्ट्रोडक्सन च्याप्टरमा चाहिँ डिफिनिसन अफ हाइड्रोलोजी, ब्रान्चेस अफ हाइड्रोलोजी, अब त्यसैको भने पनि डिफिनिसन अफ हाइड्रोलोजीमा आउँछ यो जम्मै हैन. त्यसपछि गएर चाहिँ एप्लिकेसन अफ युज अफ इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी भन्ने छ. अनि त्यसपछि हाइड्रोलोजिकल साइकल भन्ने छ. त्यसपछि वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसन भन्ने छ है. यो अनि वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसनको बारेमा चाहिँ पढिसकेपछि चाहिँ हाम्रो डेभलपमेन्ट अफ हाइड्रोमेट्रोलोजिकल स्टडी इन नेपाल भन्ने चाहिँ अर्को कन्टेन्ट छ. यसै गरेपछि यो च्याप्टर सकिन्छ. पहिलो च्याप्टरमा चाहिँ के छ त भन्दा डिफिनिसनदेखि लिएर एप्लिकेसन अफ हाइड्रोलोजी, डिफिनिसन अफ हाइड्रोलोजी, एप्लिकेसन अफ अर युज अफ इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी और वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसन और एन्ड हिस्ट्री अफ हाइड्रोलोजी डेभलपमेन्ट इन नेपाल भन्ने छ. त्यो च्याप्टर यो 4वटा चिजहरू यहाँ जम्मै चाहिँ के छ त भन्दाखेरि जम्मै न्युमेरिकल एस्पेक्ट छ. एउटा थ्योरिटिकल एस्पेक्ट छ. एउटा मात्रै के छ त भन्दाखेरि न्युमेरिकल चिजको चाहिँ एउटा के छ त भन्दाखेरि वाटर बजेट इक्वेसन भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा के छ त भन्दाखेरि न्युमेरिकलको चाहिँ पढ्नुपर्ने भाग छ. त्यो हुनाले यो 2 आवरको थ्योरीलाई मैले 2 आवरमा 2 पिरियडमा अथवा यही पिरियडमा सक्ने गरेर चाहिँ पढाउँछु. डिफिनेसन अफ इन्डिया अब म यसलाई चाहिँ आई एम नट गोइङ टु किल द टाइम. द्याट्स वाइ I am starting my lecture for the chapter 1 from the definition of the hydrology. Hydro and logos are the 2 words which is derived from the Greek word. Hydro means water and logos means study. The combination of hydro and logos gives the name hydrology, which is derived from the Greek word. That is, from these 2 words, hydro and logos, and this means the hydrology means the study of water. Hydrology means study of water. What type of study we do for the water? That all the study of water is called hydrology. But in our practice, the definition can be stated as the hydrology is the science of water which deals with the occurrence, distribution and movement of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. Which deals with the occurrence, distribution, movement, circulation of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. That is, on the earth surface, in the atmosphere, and below the surface inside the earth. Means below the surface inside the earth means underground water. In the atmosphere means atmospheric moisture water. On the earth means the water which is available on the earth surface. That is, on the earth, in the atmosphere, and inside the earth surface means groundwater surface. It deals this hydrology deal with the water available in earth, atmosphere as well as underground earth. Water in the form of vapor in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, you can find the water molecule in the form of water vapor. As water or ice in the on the land surface. On the land surface, we can get water in the form of solid or liquid. But in the underground source of water, we can get water in the liquid form. This is called groundwater. For the formation, circulation, distribution, and movement of water, various processes are involved. For the formation, circulation, distribution, and movement of water, various processes are involved, such as precipitation. Precipitation is nothing. It is the form of water that is fallen from the atmosphere to the earth surface. The water that falls from the atmosphere to the earth surface in any form, such as rainwater, raindrop, drizzle, snowfall, hailstone, glaze, sleet, or etc. These all the forms of water that reach the earth surface from the atmosphere is called precipitation. The various processes involved in the formation of water, circulation of water, distribution of water, or movement of water, such processes are involved, which are precipitation, evaporation. Evaporation means vaporization of water molecule to escape up to the atmosphere is called evaporation. This is the process involved, vaporization process. Infiltration. Infiltration means the entry of water into the underground soil. The precipitated water that enters into the underlying soil is called infiltration. This process is also takes place. Runoff. The portion of water that flows from the surface of the earth. As surface runoff, the portion of water that flows from horizontal movement of water movement under the surface of the earth towards the river or stream is called subsurface runoff. Both are called runoff. That may be surface runoff or subsurface runoff. These processes are also involved there. Groundwater inflow. Groundwater inflow means infiltration into the ground. The infiltrated water that enters into the ground is some portion of water is absorbed by the soil and retained in the soil pores, which is not available to the crop, which is not available to the root of the crop. That water is retained in the soil particle. Some water is that. After fulfilling that water, again the water is thrown towards the underground through the action of gravity towards the water table. That water is called percolation water, percolated water. The percolation water or groundwater flow, the water that flows into the underground reservoir, underground water aquifer, they may be flown there. There may be flow inside the aquifer also. Underground aquifer, there is also the flow of water, which is called groundwater flow. Stream flow as well as transportation of substances. When water flows towards the river or stream, either from the surface runoff or from the subsurface runoff of the river, that water which reaches the stream is called stream flow. That during the time of reaching the stream or from the stream to higher level to lower level, at that time the flown water transported the various substances and materials are this process involved in the hydrology for the formation, circulation, distribution, and movement of water. These processes are involved. Hydrology is the interdisciplinary subject, includes meteorology related to the Earth atmosphere. Hydrology is the combination of the different subjects such as meteorology, such as science, pure science, which means biology may be used, chemistry may be used, Physics may be used, science also used in the hydrology. Similarly, soil science also used in the hydrology. Geology also used in hydrology. Mathematics as well as statistics also used in hydrology to calculate and estimate the estimate of the water. And understanding for understanding this subject, we must know all these subjects. So hydrology is the interdisciplinary subject, for hydrology. For hydrology, all other subjects also included there. We must know the geomorphological characteristics of the river. We must understand the groundwater. We must understand the physical and chemical property of water. We must understand the biological properties of water. We must understand the mathematical parameters. Must understand the statistical formula to develop the hydrological formulas. We must know the discharge depth velocity of the river flow, hydraulics of the river or stream. That all things are interrelated for the study of hydrology. So hydrology is the interdisciplinary subject. These are the definition of hydrology. Now branches of hydrology, there are two branches of hydrology. One is scientific hydrology and other is applied hydrology or engineering hydrology. Applied hydrology, also called engineering hydrology. In this semester, we don't study we don't study scientific hydrology. We study the engineering hydrology because the hydrological parameters data that is related to design and construct the hydrologic structure, that is directly applied to the engineering structure, which is related to the engineering structure. We need the hydrological data. We have to calculate the hydrological data. We have to interpret the hydrological data for the design, to find the design parameters of the hydraulic structures. That's why this hydrology is called applied hydrology or engineering hydrology. The scientific hydrology is the hydrology which deal with the hydrological process by nature. That is, we study how water is formed, what is the chemical physical characteristic of water, and other water, how water is formed, two molecules of hydrogen and one molecules of oxygen, etc., etc. Academic aspect of water is studied there. Not only the not studied for the application of the hydrology. Not It's just basically concerned to the application of hydrology in the engineering field. It is only theoretical portion is related in the scientific hydrology, but in applied hydrology, we study of water concern for its application in the engineering field. That is estimation of water resources, study of processes like precipitation, runoff, evaporation, transpiration, their reactions as well as flood troughs, and study to handle and fight them. These are the which we study in the applied hydrology. In the course of study, you can see that there is the course which is dealt with. The first chapter is nothing, it is only introduction. From the second chapter, we study about the precipitation. We study about the precipitation, that is rainfall, snowfall, how rainfall and snowfall is measured, how data is taken, rainfall and snowfall data is taken in chapter 2. In chapter 3, we study about the losses of water, that is evaporation losses, infiltration, as well as runoff. Such things are studied there. In chapter 4, we study about the surface runoff, how the water of the stream river can be calculated, how the water what are the different methods to find the velocity of flow, find the discharge of flow, are dealt in chapter 4. In chapter 5, we concerned with the hydrograph analysis to predict the maximum flood discharge in chapter 5. In chapter 6, flood prediction by using the different statistical approach as well as the empirical formulas and rational formulas in chapter 6. In chapter 7, we study about the flood routing, which is concerned with the flood, how the maximum flood that is caused due to the inflow hydrograph and the resulting outflow hydrograph, how the structure, how the stream stores some portion of water, and after entering such structures, how water flows from them, and inflow hydrograph provides the runoff in the stream or structures, and outflow from the stream or structure, what would be the when and how when and what amount of this peak discharge will occur, which is studied in flood routing techniques. That's why all these things are covered by the engineering hydrology or applied hydrology. Now, up to this level, we define engineering hydrology and branches of hydrology. We define engineering hydrology and branches of hydrology. Now, from this to the upcoming chapters, we study about only the application hydrology, that is applied hydrology, engineering hydrology, and we know only engineering hydrology because we are engineers. We are engineers. We should know only engineering hydrology. We are not focused to the subject of scientific hydrology. यहाँसम्म तिमीहरूले बुझ्यौ मैले भनेको? हेलो हेलो हेलो, ये तो बोल रहा।
हजुर सर।
यो के हो भने यो इन्ट्रोडक्सन च्याप्टरमा धेरै चिज छैन। यसमा हाइड्रोलोजी भने के हो, यसको ब्रान्चहरू के हुन् भनेर पढ्दाखेरि हामीले हाइड्रोलोजी भनेको यो भन्ने पढियो, यसका ब्रान्च यो हुन्छ भनेर पढियो। दुई किसिमको हाइड्रोलोजी, एउटा साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजी, एउटा इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी। साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजीले के गर्छ त भन्दाखेरि थ्योरिटिकल एस्पेक्टलाई मात्रै कभर गर्छ। पानी कसरी फर्म हुन्छ, पानीका प्रोपर्टिजहरू के हुन्छन्, फिजिकल केमिकल प्रोपर्टिजहरू हैन, पानीले कस्तो रूप धारणा गर्छ, कसरी बन्छ पानी, के गर्छ भन्ने यस्तो साधारण चिजहरू जुन पानीका कुराहरू हामी पढ्छौँ, त्यो पढेको चिजलाई हामीले चाहिँ के गर्नु पर्दैन त भन्दाखेरि त्यसलाई एप्लाई गर्नु पर्दैन, कुनै ठाउँमा पनि एप्लाई गर्नु पर्दैन। खालि एकाडेमिक कुरो मात्रै पानीको बारेमा पढ्छौँ भने त्यो के भयो भन्दाखेरि साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजी भन्छ है। तर त्यो एकाडेमिक जुन पढेको चिज छ, त्यो पढेको चिजलाई एप्लिकेसनमा हामीले चाहिँ लानको लागि त्यो चिजलाई कसरी लिएर जाने त भनेर चाहिँ पढ्छौँ भने त्यो चाहिँ के हो त भन्दाखेरि इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी हो है। एप्लिकेसन अब हामीलाई चाहिँ नि स्ट्रक्चर बनाउन लगाए, कुनै पनि हाइड्रोलोजिक स्ट्रक्चर बनाउनलाई डिजाइन गर्नको लागि त त्यो त्यहाँ परेको पानीले कत्रो डिस्चार्ज क्रिएट गर्छ, कत्रो भेलोसिटी क्रिएट गर्छ, त्यसैको आधारमा अनि बल्ल हामीले के अरे डिजाइन गर्ने हो है। अब त्यो पानीको चाहिँ नि दुईटा चाहिँ भाग मलिक्युल चाहिँ नि के अरे दुईटा चाहिँ हाइड्रोजन र दुई भाग हाइड्रोजन र एक भाग अक्सिजन बनेर पानी बन्छ भन्ने कुरोले हाम्रो डिजाइनलाई के मतलब गर्छ त? त्यो प्यारामिटर त हामीलाई चाहिँदैन। हामीलाई चाहिने प्यारामिटर भनेको डिस्चार्ज चाहियो, हामीलाई चाहिने प्यारामिटर भनेको पानीको भोल्युम चाहियो, हामीलाई चाहिने प्यारामिटर भनेको पानीलाई चाहिँ त्यो ठाउँबाट अर्को ठाउँमा लान सक्छ कि सकिँदैन, पानीको हाइड्रोलिक्स चाहियो हैन। यस्ता चिजहरू भनेको पढ्ने चिज भनेको इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजीमा पढिन्छ। यो साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजीले खालि थ्योरिटिकल एस्पेक्टलाई मात्रै कभर गर्छ, वाटरको बारेमा त भन्न त, तर त्यसलाई कसरी फिल्डमा चाहिँ एप्लाई गर्ने अथवा त्यसलाई कसरी त्यसबाट के चिजहरू एब्स्ट्र्याक्ट गरेर चाहिँ हामीलाई डिजाइन क्यालकुलेसनमा चाहिँ नि त्यो चाहिन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ नि साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजीले डिल गर्दैन। त्यही भएको हुनाले अब हामीले अब बुझ्ने भनेको चाहिँ साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजीलाई बुझ्ने होइन, हामीले बुझ्ने भने के हो त भन्दाखेरि इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजीलाई मात्र हामीले के गर्नुपर्छ, फोकस गर्नुपर्छ, जसले पानीको बारेमा, रनअपको बारेमा, इभापोट्रान्सपिरेसनको बारेमा है, तिनीहरूको चाहिँ नि इन्टर रिएक्सन रिलेसन के हुन्छ, पानी पर्ने सुक्ने जाने हराउने इन्टररिलेसन के हुन्छ, त्यसले कस्तो कस्तो चाहिँ अवस्था चाहिँ पृथ्वीमा ल्याउन सक्छ, बाढी ल्याउन सक्ला, सुक्खापन ल्याउन सक्ला, अथवा त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले कसरी ह्यान्डल गर्ने, हाम्रो चाहिँ खोला नालामा आएको पानीलाई हामीले कसरी युटिलाइज गर्ने, कसरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ युज गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ केमा पढिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि यो इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजीमा पढिन्छ। त्यसले चाहिँ हामीलाई के दिन्छ भन्दाखेरि एप्लिकेसन फिल्डमा कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ कसले दिन्छ, इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी दिन्छ। अब तिमीहरूले बुझ्ने भने के हो त भन्दाखेरि इन्जिनियरिङ हाइड्रोलोजी मात्रै हो, साइन्टिफिक हाइड्रोलोजी होइन है। One application or uses of engineering hydrology. Application or uses of hydrology in engineering. We are not concerned, focused and concerned with the scientific hydrology. Now we are focused on engineering hydrology or applied hydrology. Where is the application of engineering hydrology? Knowledge of hydrology helps to design various water-related engineering projects, such as municipal as well as industrial water supply, irrigation, hydropower, navigation, flood control works, dams, bridges, etc. For constructing such projects, we must know the hydrology of water. We must know the hydrology of water, from where the design parameters related to such structures can be obtained. We can take the various years records data of that river in that site. Many years data is studied. Minimum 30 years of the record of rain data can be used for the design of such structure, because the flood that comes in the previous years may be very high. We don't know what is the characteristic of that river, which can take water of different magnitude and different capacities, different velocity with different discharge. That's why we have to know the. Hello.
हजुर सर नेपालीमा एक्सप्लेन गरिदिनु न।
ठिक छ। अब यो के हो त भन्दाखेरि हाइड्रोलोजीले के गर्छ त भन्दाखेरि हामीलाई जति पनि चाहिने डिजाइन प्यारामिटर्सहरू छ त्यसलाई क्याल्कुलेसन गर्नु पर्यो भने त्यो खोलामा जुन हामीले स्ट्रक्चर बनाउँछौँ, त्यो पानीको स्ट्रक्चर, पानीमा जुन स्ट्रक्चर बनाउँछौँ त्यो स्ट्रक्चरबाट चाहिँ नि त्यो पानीलाई पास गराउनु पर्ने हुन्छ, त्यो स्ट्रक्चरले पानीलाई थेग्न पर्ने हुन्छ, अथवा त्यहाँ कत्रो बाढी आउन सक्छ त भन्ने कुरा हेर्नको लागि, अथवा त्यसको त्यो त्यहाँको खोलाको चाहिँ नि क्यारेक्टर के छ भन्ने कुरा बुझ्नको लागि त्यो खोलाको हाइड्रोलोजी हामीले बुझेको हुनुपर्छ है। त्यसको लागि प्रिभियस इयर्सहरूमा चाहिँ नि उपलब्ध भएका डाटाहरू हुन्छन्, रेकर्डहरू हुन्छन्। त्यो मिनिमम पनि अब चाहिँ 30 इयर्सका चाहिँ रेकर्डहरू, 50 इयर्सका रेकर्डहरू, पहिलाका चाहिँ रेकर्डहरू हामीले हेर्न पर्ने हुन्छ। किनभने डिजाइन गर्दाखेरि त्यहाँ कत्रोसम्म बाढी आएको थियो त पहिला होइन। अब 2-4 वर्ष बाढी नआएको देखेर यतिभन्दा आउँदो रहेछ भनेर डिजाइन गरियो भने भोलि ठुलो बाढी आइदिइहाल्यो भने त्यो बेलामा हाम्रो स्ट्रक्चरले धान्न सक्दैन। त्यो हुनाले हाइड्रोलोजीको चाहिँ को कन्सेप्टले के गर्नु पर्यो त भन्दाखेरि हामीले हाम्रो स्ट्रक्चरहरू डिजाइन गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। त्यसको लागि यो चाहिन्छ। जति पनि वाटर रिलेटेड प्रोजेक्ट छ, खानेपानीको लागि होस् अथवा सिँचाइको लागि होस् अथवा चाहिँ विद्युत निकाल्नको लागि होस् अथवा सिप ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन गर्नको लागि होस् अथवा त्यो एरियामा चाहिँ फ्लड कन्ट्रोल गर्नको लागि होस् अथवा ड्यामहरू बनाउनको लागि होस् अथवा पुलहरू बनाउनको लागि होस्, जेसुकै होस्, जति पनि स्ट्रक्चरहरू छ हामीले चाहिँ नि खोलामा बनाउँछौँ, खोलाको पानी युज गरेर बनाउँछौँ भने त्यस्तो बेलामा चाहिँ के गर्नुपर्छ, ती पानीलाई थुन्नु पर्ला, चेक्नु पर्ला अथवा बग्न दिनु पर्ला, के गर्नु पर्ला होइन। त्यो स्ट्रक्चर बनाउँदाखेरि त पानीको चाहिँ खोलाको हाइड्रोलोजी के गर्नु पर्यो, बुझ्नु पर्यो। त्यो रेकर्डहरू हामीले दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ। 1 मा इट इज एप्लिकेबल फर द करेक्ट एसेसमेन्ट अफ फ्लो फर हाइड्रो पावर, इरिगेसन, ड्रेनेज एन्ड वाटर सप्लाई प्रोजेक्ट। कति पानी त्यो ठाउँमा आउँछ त भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ करेक्ट चाहिँ नि हामीलाई जानकारी हुनुपर्छ है। करेक्ट जानकारी भएन भने हामीले चाहिँ त्यसलाई के गर्न सक्दैनौँ, एप्लाई गर्न सक्दैनौँ। त्यो जानकारी के का लागि त भन्दाखेरि यी चिजहरू, यी प्रोजेक्टहरूको लागि त्यो हामीलाई थाहा पाउनुपर्छ। त्यसको लागि कसले दिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि त्यो हाइड्रोलोजी त्यहाँ एप्लिकेबल हुन्छ। हाइड्रोलोजीले बल्ल त्यो डाटा दिन्छ। हाइड्रोलोजी नै बिहेभियरै हामीले बुझेको छैन भने हामीले त्यो लिन सक्दैनौँ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ के हो, नम्बर 1 मा भयो। नम्बर 2 मा डिटरमाइनिङ म्याक्सिमम एक्सपेक्टेड फ्लो द्याट रिचेज द ब्रिज, ड्याम, रिजर्भर, ड्रेनेज एज वेल एज स्पिलवे टु डिजाइन देम। अब डिजाइनको लागि चाहिँ हामीले यस्ता स्ट्रक्चरहरू जुन ब्रिज ड्याम रिजर्भर ड्रेनेज एज वेल एज स्पिलवे भनेको यी जम्मै हाइड्रोलोजिक स्ट्रक्चर्स हुन्। यी स्ट्रक्चर्सहरूको डिजाइन गर्दाखेरि म्याक्सिमम डिस्चार्जको आधारमा डिजाइन गरिन्छ है। यिनलाई मिनिमम फ्लोमा डिजाइन हुँदैन, किनभने ब्रिजको डिजाइन गर्नु पर्यो भने ब्रिजले कत्रो डिस्चार्ज कत्रो फ्लो पास गराउनु पर्छ त्यसको मुनिबाट भनेर हेर्नु पर्ने हुन्छ है। ड्यामले म्याक्सिमम कति पानी त्यसले थेगेर राख्नुपर्छ त, कति डिस्चार्ज ड्यामले थेग्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ ड्याम रिजर्भमा हुन्छ। रिजर्भर भनेको के हो त, ड्यामले चाहिँ जब पानी थेग्छ अनि रिजर्भर बन्छ अपस्ट्रिम साइडमा, त्यो रिजर्भरमा कति छ त म्याक्सिमम वाटर क्यापासिटी त्यसले थेग्न पर्ने कति हुन्छ त रिजर्भर, कत्रो रिजर्भर हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ त्यहाँ आउँछ। ड्रेनेज भनेको मतलब हाम्रो चाहिँ नि आकाशबाट पानी पर्यो, बाटोमा पानी पर्यो अथवा चाहिँ ल्यान्डमा पानी पर्यो, त्यो पानी त अल्टिमेटली बगेर कहाँ जान्छ त भन्दाखेरि खोला नालामा पुग्छ। अब हाम्रो बाटोभरि चाहिँ पानी परेर बाटै चाहिँ टालिने अवस्था भयो भने त त्यहाँ हिडुल गरेर चाहिँ ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनको लागि अप्ठ्यारो पर्ने होला। त्यो बेला छेउमा के गरिएको हुन्छ, साइड ड्रेन बनाइएको हुन्छ। बाटोमा परेको पानी सर्लक्क ड्रेनमा जाओस् अनि त्यो ड्रेनले त्यो पानी क्याच गरेर कता लैजाओस् त, खोलामा लैजाओस्, बाटोमा चाहिँ पानी नजमोस् भनेर हामी के गर्छौँ, साइड ड्रेनहरू बनाउँछौँ। त्यसलाई हामी ड्रेनेज सिस्टम भन्छौँ। त्यो साइड ड्रेनमा कति पानी चाहिँ जम्मा हुन्छ, त्यो साइड ड्रेनले चाहिँ आफ्नो साइडमा जम्मा भएको पानी क्याच गरेर कहाँ लानु पर्यो त भन्दाखेरि खोलामा लानु पर्यो भने त्यो ड्रेनेजको क्यापासिटी निकाल्नको लागि पनि हामीले त्यो ठाउँको हाइड्रोलोजी स्टडी गरेको हुनुपर्छ। हाइड्रोलोजी स्टडीको मतलब त्यो ठाउँमा कति पानी पर्छ, क्याचमेन्ट एरिया कत्रो छ, त्यो हामीले चाहिँ बनाउने भनेको ठाउँमा कत्रो भोल्युमको क्वान्टिटीको पानी त्यहाँ आइपुग्छ। त्यो पानीलाई चाहिँ अब ड्रेन त सानो एरियामा मात्रै हुँदैन, माथिबाट बग्दै बग्दै आएको हुन्छ होइन। त्यो माथिबाट तल डाउनस्ट्रिम साइडमा आइपुग्दा त्यो धेरै पानी क्याच गरेर लिएर जानुपर्ने हुन्छ। जबसम्म खोला उसले फाल्ने ठाउँ पाउँदैन त्यहाँसम्म क्याच गरेर लानुपर्छ भनेपछि त्यसको क्यापासिटी कति निकाल्नु पर्यो। अथवा स्पिलवे भनेको चाहिँ नि स्ट्रक्चरबाट बढी भएको पानी फाल्न कटाउनको लागि स्पिलवे बनाइएको हुन्छ। त्यो स्पिलवेबाट कति पानी फालिन्छ त हामीले, स्पिलवेले फोहोर पानी सहित अरू चाहिँ नि डिपोजिट भएको चाहिँ नि सेडिमेन्ट लोडहरू पनि स्पिलवेले चाहिँ नि फाल्न पर्ने हुन्छ। स्ट्रक्चर बनाइसकेपछि सफा पानी चाहिँ युटिलाइज गरेर जाला, फोहोर पानी जतिहरू थुनेर राखेको फोहोर पानीहरू स्पिलवेबाट डाउनस्ट्रिम साइडतिर के गरिन्छ फेरि फालिन्छ। त्यो फाल्ने बेला त स्पिलवे त एउटा सर्टेन स्लोपमा चाहिँ पानी चाहिँ फालिन्छ। त्यो स्लोपमा फाल्दाखेरि पानीको भेलोसिटी कति हुन्छ, पानीको करेन्ट कति हुन्छ, पानीको डिस्चार्ज कत्रो आउँछ, त्यसले कत्रो चाहिँ नि त्यहाँ इनर्जी क्रिएट गर्छ। जसले गर्दाखेरि त्यो स्ट्रक्चर चाहिँ सेफ हुनु पर्यो, सेफली त्यसलाई चाहिँ डिस्पोज आउट गर्नु पर्यो फ्रम द स्ट्रक्चर। त्यो बेलामा त्यो स्ट्रक्चरमा कत्रो खालको डिस्चार्ज आउँछ, म्याक्सिमम फ्लो कत्रो आउन सक्छ भन्ने कुरा हामीले एक्सपेक्टेड फ्लोको चाहिँ थाहा पाउनु पर्यो। त्यो थाहा पायो भने बल्ल हामी के गर्छौँ, सेफ डिजाइन गर्न सक्छौँ, जसको लागि हाइड्रोलोजी नभई हुँदैन। तेस्रो, फर डिटरमाइनिङ मिनिमम फ्लो ड्युरिङ द लो पिरियड है। अब यी स्ट्रक्चर माथिल्लो स्ट्रक्चरहरू चाहिँ नि म्याक्सिमम फ्लोमा डिजाइन गरिन्छ भने तलका स्ट्रक्चरहरू कोही स्ट्रक्चरहरू लो फ्लडमा डिजाइन गरिन्छ। जस्तो हामीलाई हाइड्रो पावरको डिजाइन गर्नु पर्यो भने अब हाइड्रो पावरलाई वर्षै दिनभरि पानी चाहिन्छ है। हिउँदमा हामीलाई पानी चाहिँ को लेभल खोलामा घट्न सक्छ, त्यो बेलामा पानी चाहिँ पर्याप्त मात्रामा नहुन सक्छ भने बर्सात याममा के हुन सक्छ, म्याक्सिमम पानी हुन सक्छ। त्यो बर्सातको पानी एकैचोटि हाइड्रो पावर चाहिँ प्लान्टमा झारेर पनि भन्न चाहिने मात्रामा झार्न पर्यो। अब हिउँदमा गएर पानी सुकेर चाहिँ पानी नै टर्बाइन घुमाउने पानी नै नपुग्यो भने त हाइड्रो पावर प्लान्ट त चल्दैन। त्यही हुनाले मिनिमम इन्स्टल क्यापासिटी कति त, त्यसको मिनिमम फ्लो कति आउँछ त्यो टर्बाइनमा, त्यसले चाहिँ जेनेरेट गर्ने हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कति हुन्छ त भनेर पत्ता लगाउनु पर्यो भने त्यो बेला मिनिमम फ्लोमा पनि हामीले बिजुली निकाल्न सक्ने हाम्रो चाहिँ के हुनु पर्यो, क्यापासिटी हुनु पर्यो। हामीले डिजाइन गरेको स्ट्रक्चरले मिनिमम फ्लोमा पनि के गर्नु पर्यो त भन्दाखेरि त्यसले मिनिमम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भयो भने के गर्नु पर्यो, जेनेरेट गर्नु पर्यो। म्याक्सिममलाई हेरिँदैन, हाइड्रो पावरको लागि मिनिमम फ्लोलाई हेरिन्छ। तर मिनिमम फ्लो साह्रै नै थोरै छ भने कुनै कुनै बेलामा हामी चाहिँ रिजर्भर बनाएर रिजर्भरको पानीले पनि युटिलाइज गर्न सक्छौँ है। अब रन अफ रिभर प्लान्ट हुन पनि सक्छ अथवा स्टोरेज प्लान्ट हुन पनि सक्छ। अब कस्तो किसिमको चाहिँ प्लान्ट बनाउने हो त्यो अनुसार कमसेकम मिनिमम फ्लो स्टोरेज प्लान्टको लागि पनि हुने मिनिमम फ्लो कति हो, अथवा चाहिँ रन अफ रिभर प्लान्टको लागि पनि युटिलाइज हुने मिनिमम फ्लो कति हो, त्यो हाइड्रोलोजीबाट थाहा हुन्छ। खोलाको हाइड्रोलोजीबाट त्यहाँ बग्ने पानीको मात्राको आधारमा, त्यसको क्याचमेन्ट एरियाको आधारमा, त्यहाँ हुने रेनफलको आधारमा त्यो इस्टिमेट गर्न सकिन्छ अथवा प्रिभियस रेकर्डहरूबाट थाहा हुन्छ। त्यसैको आधारमा मिनिमम फ्लोको आधारमा लो फ्लोको आधारमा के हेरिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि हाइड्रो पावर, वाटर सप्लाई, इरिगेसन टु मिट देयर डिमान्डलाई मिट हुने गरेर यी पुग्छ कि पुग्दैन हेर्न पर्यो। अब हामीलाई चाहिँ नि खोलामा पानी चाहिँ नि अब 1000-1200 घरधुरीलाई भन्दा चाहिँ नि पुर्याउन सक्ने क्यापासिटी छैन। हामीले चाहिँ पुरै चाहिँ नि जिल्लालाई पनि खुवाउँछ त्यो खोलाबाट भन्न थाल्यो भने त्यो प्रोजेक्ट फेल खान्छ। किनभने हामीसँग सोर्समा चाहिँ एडुकेट मात्रामा के हुनु पर्यो त भन्दाखेरि पानी हुनु पर्यो, फ्लो हुनु पर्यो। त्यही भएको हुनाले थोरै फ्लोमा पनि जति एरियालाई चाहिँ हामीले खुवाउन सक्छौँ त्यो त ठुलो चाहिँ फ्लड आएको बेलामा त्यति त खुवाउन सकिन्छ, नभएको बेलामा पनि पानी कम भएको बेलामा पनि त्यतिलाई त खुवाउन सकिन्छ नि। भनेपछि यति एरियालाई चाहिँ हामीले यो पानी वर्ष दिनभरि खुवाउन सक्छौँ भनेर फिक्स गर्न पाइयो कि। त्यो भने चाहिँ लो पिरियडलाई हामीले हेर्नुपर्छ। लो पिरियडमा चाहिँ लो पिरियडको फ्लडलाई अथवा फ्लो अफ द रिभरलाई हेरेर चाहिँ नि हाइड्रो पावर, वाटर सप्लाई अथवा इरिगेसन को लागि चाहिने पानी चाहिँ मिट हुन्छ कि हुँदैन भनेर चाहिँ थाहा पाउनको लागि पनि के चाहियो त भन्दाखेरि हाइड्रोलोजी चाहिँ नि चाहिन्छ र यसको एप्लिकेसन त्यहाँ हुन्छ। फर डिटरमाइनिङ टोटल भोल्युम अफ वाटर एभाइलेबल फर द ड्रेनेज बेसिन ओभर अ लङ पिरियड। भनेपछि लामो समयसम्म हाम्रो ड्रेनेज बेसिन अथवा क्याचमेन्ट एरियामा कति भोल्युम पानी चाहिँ आउन सक्छ, बग्न सक्छ, कति भोल्युम पानी कलेक्ट हुन सक्छ भनेर थाहा पाउनको लागि चाहिँ हामीलाई के चाहियो त भन्दाखेरि हाइड्रोलोजी चाहियो। फर प्लानिङ हाइड्रो पावर प्लान्ट टु डिटरमाइन द फिजिबिलिटी अफ रन अफ रिभर प्लान्ट एन्ड अपरेसन विथ पोन्डेज अर स्टोरेज भनेको हाइड्रो पावर प्लान्टको चाहिँ नि फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी भनेको सुरुमा चाहिँ स्टडी गर्दाखेरि यसलाई रन अफ रिभर प्लान्टमा चाहिँ बनाउन सकिन्छ कि अथवा यसलाई चाहिँ स्टोरेज प्लान्टमा बनाउन सकिन्छ भनेर फिजिबिलिटी स्टडी गर्ने बेलामा पनि हामीले कमसेकम त्यो ठाउँको हाइड्रोलोजी स्टडी गऱ्यौँ भने हामीलाई चाहिँ नि रन अफ रिभर प्लान्ट बनाउने कि पोन्डेज अथवा स्टोरेज रिभर प्लान्ट बनाउने भन्ने चाहिँ आइडिया त्यही बेलामा पाइसकिन्छ हामीले है। त्यही भएको हुनाले त्यसको लागि पनि यो काम लाग्छ। फर डिटरमाइनिङ एन्ड डाइमेन्सनिङ नेभिगेसन च्यानल ड्युरिङ भेरियस सिजन। नेभिगेसन च्यानल भने के त भन्दाखेरि सिप ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन गर्नको लागि अथवा बोटिङ गर्नको लागि खोलामा सर्टेन एमाउन्टमा पानी हुनुपर्छ है। अब बर्सात याममा टन्न पानी होला चलाउन सक्यो सिप, किनभने बढी पानी छ ठिकै छ। अब हिउँदमा गएपछि त पानी सुक्यो भने त भोलि सिपको चाहिँ नि बेसै चाहिँ गएर चाहिँ नि खोलाको चाहिँ नि भुइँमा गएर धसिने अवस्था आयो भने त त्यहाँ नेभिगेसन चलाउन सकिँदैन होइन। अब विभिन्न च्यानलहरू बनाउनु पर्ला। अब फिजारिएको खोलालाई साँगुरो बनाउनु पर्ला, अनि डेप बढाउनु पर्ला, अथवा हिउँदमा पनि चाहिँ अन्य खोलाबाट पानी ल्याएर भए पनि त्यहाँ दिनुपर्ने होला, अथवा कता लान सकिन्छ। वर्ष दिनभरि चाहिँ नेभिगेसन चलाउन चाहिँ सम्भव छ कि छैन भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ नि खोलाको हाइड्रोलोजी नबुझिकन हामी गर्न सक्दैनौँ। विभिन्न सिजनमा पानी घट्न सक्छ, अथवा पानी घटेको हुनाले यो सिजनमा यताबाट लान सकिन्छ, यो सिजनमा यसरी गर्न सकिन्छ भनेर त्यसको डिजाइन प्यारामिटर्सहरू पत्ता लगाउनु पनि हामी के गर्नु पर्यो, हाइड्रोलोजी स्टडी गर्नु पर्यो। एप्लिकेबल फर द इरोजन कन्ट्रोल टु मिनिमाइज सेडिमेन्टेसन अफ द रिजर्भर। रिजर्भर भनेको के त भन्दाखेरि ड्याम अथवा ब्यारेज बनाइदियौँ र खोलालाई छेक्ने थुन्ने काम गऱ्यौँ भने त्यो बेलामा अपस्ट्रिम साइडमा पानी जम्मा भएर बस्छ होइन। त्यो अपस्ट्रिम साइडमा पानी जम्मा भएर बसेर त्यहाँ ठुलो पोन्डेज अथवा लेक क्रिएट हुन्छ, त्यसलाई भन्छ रिजर्भर है। त्यो रिजर्भरमा त्यो थुनेको पानी मात्र त्यहाँ आउँदैन कि, खोलाले थुनेको पानी छेकेको पानी मात्र त्यहाँ हुँदैन कि, खोला थुनेर छेकेको पानी मात्र हुँदैन कि, रिजर्भरकै एड्जोइनिङ ल्यान्डबाट बगेर आएको पानी पनि त्यहाँ आउँछ है। एड्जोइनिङ ल्यान्डबाट चाहिँ ल्यान्डको चाहिँ एकदम स्टिप ल्यान्ड छ, त्यहाँको ल्यान्ड सोइल चाहिँ एकदम के छ त भन्दा लुज किसिमको सोइल छ भने त्यो बगेको माथिबाट आकाशबाट परेको पानीले पनि रनअफ रूपमा बग्दाखेरि त्यो रिजर्भरमा धेरै के ल्याइदिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि सिल्ट पार्टिकल्सहरू, स्यान्डहरू, स्टोन्सहरू, पेबल्सहरू बगाएर लिएर आएर रिजर्भरलाई चाहिँ अब के गरिदिन सक्छ त भन्दाखेरि त्यसले पुर्दिन सक्छ। त्यही भएको हुनाले त्यो रिजर्भरमा कति चाहिँ पानी के अरे सिल्ट पार्टिकल्सहरू अथवा चाहिँ अनवान्टेड मेटेरियल्सहरू त्यहाँ आउन सक्छन् भन्ने थाहा पाइयो भने, कहाँबाट कसरी आउन सक्छ भन्ने थाहा पाइयो भने त्यसलाई हामीले कन्ट्रोल गर्न सक्छौँ। त्यसलाई भन्छ सेडिमेन्टेसन कन्ट्रोल है। अथवा मिनिमाइजिङ सेडिमेन्टेसनलाई के भन्छ मिनिमाइज गर्ने टेक्निकहरू हामीले लगाउन सक्छौँ, जसको आधारमा चाहिँ नि रिजर्भरको चाहिँ नि रिजर्भ गर्ने क्यापासिटी चाहिँ लामो ड्युरेसनसम्म चाहिँ हामी रिजर्भर राख्न सक्छौँ, त्यसलाई बचाउन सक्छौँ। होइन भने त्यो रिजर्भर भरिन्छ, भरिएपछि हाम्रो के हुन्छ त भन्दाखेरि त्यो अब अब स्टोरेज रिजर्भर सिस्टमबाट चाहिँ प्रोजेक्ट बनाइएको छ। रिजर्भर भरिएपछि त अब अरू अनवान्टेड मेटेरियल भरिसकेपछि त्यहाँ पानी रिटेन भएर बस्न पाउँदैन अनि पानीको अभाव रहन्छ है। किनभने ड्यामले त यति खाल्टोसम्म यसले सर्टेन हाइटसम्म छेक्ने हो पानी, छेकिसकेपछि त्यो लेभलसम्मको अपस्ट्रिम साइडको भ्यालु एरिया के हुन्छ, पानीले चाहिँ डुबाएर चाहिँ त्यहाँ चाहिँ के तालमा परिणत हुन्छ। जब त्यो तालमा चाहिँ बाहिरी चाहिँ नि सेडिमेन्टेसन चाहिँ आएर त्यहाँ थुपारिन्छ भने पानी चाहिँ के भयो त भन्दाखेरि अब ड्यामको माथिबाट चाहिँ बगेर गइदिन्छ, रिजर्भ भएर बस्न सक्दैन। रिजर्भरको क्यापेसिटी घटिसकेपछि हामीलाई चाहिँ नि लो फ्लड सिजनमा चाहिने चाहिँ पानी उपलब्ध हुँदैन, हाम्रो चाहिँ प्रोजेक्ट के भइदिन्छ, फेल हुन्छ। त्यही हुनाले इरोजन कन्ट्रोल टु मिनिमाइज द सेडिमेन्टेसनको लागि पनि के चाहियो, हाइड्रोलोजीको त्यहाँ एप्लिकेसन हुनसक्छ। एप्लिकेबल फर द फ्लो इन्भेस्टिगेसन अफ द रिभर बेसिकली एट लो म्याग्निट्युड टु प्रिभेन्ट इट फ्रम बिङ पोल्युटेड। कहिलेकाहीँ खोलामा के भइदिन्छ भन्दाखेरि थोरै म्याग्निट्युडमा चाहिँ नि पानी आउँछ, त्यस्तो सिजनहरू हुन्छ जुन बेलामा फ्लो थोरै हुन्छ। त्यो फ्लो थोरै भएको बेलामा नजिकैको बस्तीहरूबाट त्यो खोलामा चाहिँ नि चाहिँ फोहोर दूषित पानीहरू अथवा चाहिँ नि हाम्रो टोयलेट बाथरुमबाट आएका पानीहरू ढलहरू मिसाइदियौँ भने त्यो खोलामा पानी अलरेडी पहिल्यै कम छ, त्यसमा चाहिँ दुवै साइडतिरबाट चाहिँ नि त्यहाँको चाहिँ लोकालिटीको चाहिँ फोहोरहरू चाहिँ त्यही मिसाइदियौँ भने त्यो भएको पानीले त्यो फोहोरलाई चाहिँ के गर्न सक्दैन, बगाउनु सक्दैन। अथवा के अरे बर्सात याममा थुपारेर लिएर आएको ठुलो मात्राको चाहिँ बालुवादेखि लिएर फोहोर पदार्थहरू जुन लिएर आएको छ, झारपातदेखि लिएर सबै हिउँदमा त्यही थुपारेर बसेको रहेछ र भने त्यो हिउँदमा त्यसले के गर्न सक्दैन, बगाएर लान सक्दैन भने त्यति बेलामा त खोला के भइदिन सक्छ, पोल्युटेड हुनसक्छ। भनेपछि त्यो पोल्युसन भएको खोलालाई कसरी चाहिँ कन्ट्रोल गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरा त्यसको चाहिँ इन्भेस्टिगेसन गर्न चाहिँ लो म्याग्निट्युड भएको पिरियडमा चाहिँ त्यो पोल्युसन हुने खतरा छ भने त्यो पोल्युसनलाई बाट कसरी बस्ने भन्ने कुराको चाहिँ नि थाहा पाउनको लागि हामीले के गर्नुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि खोलाको हाइड्रोलोजी चाहिँ के हुनुपर्छ, हामीलाई थाहा हुनुपर्छ। यो भनेको चाहिँ विभिन्न फिल्डमा चाहिँ नि के हुन्छ, हाइड्रोलोजीको चाहिँ नि एप्लिकेबल हुन्छ। अब स्कोप के हो त भन्यो भने इस्टिमेसन अफ वाटर रिसोर्सेस। हाम्रो स्कोप के छ भन्दाखेरि वाटर रिसोर्समा कति पानी छ भनेर इस्टिमेट गर्नु पर्यो भने हामीलाई हाइड्रोलोजीको चाहिँ स्टडी हामीले गरेकै हुनुपर्छ। हाइड्रोलोजी बिना चाहिँ हामीले के गर्न सक्दैनौँ, इस्टिमेसन अफ वाटर रिसोर्सेस, वाटर रिसोर्समा कति पानी छ भन्ने कुरा इस्टिमेट गर्न सक्दैन। क्यापासिटी अफ द रिजर्भर, म्याक्सिमम मिनिमम फ्लो एट द भेरियस सिजन, त्यसको इस्टिमेट गर्नको लागि, त्यसको नापजोख गर्नको लागि हामीलाई के चाहिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि हाइड्रोलोजी चाहिन्छ। स्टडी अफ प्रोसेस लाइक प्रिसिपिटेसन, इभ्यापोरेसन, इन्फिल्ट्रेसन, रनअप एन्ड देयर इन्टर रिलेसन। भनेको हाइड्रोलोजी सब्जेक्टमा हामी के पढ्छौँ त भन्दाखेरि यस्ता प्रोसेसहरू हामी हाइड्रोलोजी सब्जेक्टमा पढ्छौँ जसले हामीलाई प्रिसिपिटेसनको बारेमा, इभ्यापोरेसनको बारेमा, इन्फिल्ट्रेसनको बारेमा, रनअफको बारेमा र यिनीहरूको चाहिँ अन्तर सम्बन्धको बारेमा के गराउँछ त, अध्ययन गराउँछ। त्यो अध्ययन गराउन पनि के चाहियो त भन्दाखेरि हामीलाई हाइड्रोलोजी भन्ने विषय हामीले जान्न पर्यो। स्टडी अफ प्रब्लम लाइक फ्लड एन्ड ड्रफ्ट भनेको पानीसँग रिलेटेड प्रब्लम, बाढी अथवा सुखापना है। धेरै पानी भयो भने बाढी आउला, पानी थोरै भयो भने सुक्खा होला होइन, ड्रफ्टको बारेमा। अब कुन समयमा ठ्याक्कै भने चाहिँ फ्लड आउँछ, फ्लड फोरकास्टिङ, वार्निङ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ स्टडी अफ प्रब्लम लाइक फ्लड एन्ड ड्रफ्ट भन्नेमा आउँछ है। त्यसको लागि सेफ डिस्पोजल अफ एक्सेस वाटर होइन, कसरी डिस्पोजल गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ यो हाइड्रोलोजीको स्टडी नगरेसम्म हामीलाई थाहा हुँदैन। टु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड द प्रोपर्टिज अफ वाटर इन नेचर, अब वाटरको चाहिँ प्रोपर्टी के छ त, कसरी बस्छ, कहिले चाहिँ त्यही वाटर कहिले चाहिँ नि लिक्विड अवस्थामा हुन्छ, त्यही वाटर कुन ठाउँमा चाहिँ सोलिड अवस्थामा हुन्छ, त्यही वाटर सजिलै कहिले एक्सट्र्याक्ट गर्न सकिन्छ, त्यही वाटर हामीले एक्सट्र्याक्ट गर्न सक्दैनौँ होइन। वाटर टेबल बढेको बेला अन्डरग्राउन्ड वाटर मजाले एक्सट्र्याक्ट गर्न सकिन्छ, वाटर टेबल घट्यो भने धेरै तल जान्छ, हाम्रो पहुँचमा हुँदैन, हामीले लिन सक्दैनौँ। अब विभिन्न कुराहरू छन्, त्यो जम्मै चिजहरू चाहिँ थाहा पाउनको लागि के गर्नको लागि चाहिँ यसको स्कोप है, यसको तलको चाहिँ स्कोप हो, माथि के हो एप्लिकेसन हो, माथिको 8 नम्बरसम्म के हो एप्लिकेसन हो, तलपट्टिको के हो स्कोप हो। हाइड्रोलोजी बिना यी चिजहरू हामीले थाहै हुन्। हाइड्रोलोजी बिना थाहा नपाइसकेपछि अनि हामीलाई हाइड्रोलोजीको अध्ययन गर्न के छ, जरुर छ। त्यही भएर त्यसलाई भन्छ स्कोप अफ हाइड्रोलोजी। हाइड्रोलोजीको स्कोप चाहिँ हामीलाई के छ, दिन प्रतिदिन बढिरहेकै छ, त्यो हामीलाई चाहिन्छ नै। यसको लागि तलपट्टिको स्कोप भयो, हाइड्रोलोजी विषयमा के पढिन्छ त्यो किन पढ्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ स्कोपमा भयो हैन। एप्लिकेसन भनेको पढेको चिजलाई हामीले के गर्नलाई एप्लाई गर्छौँ, के पत्ता लगाउनलाई एप्लाई गर्छौँ भन्ने चाहिँ एप्लिकेसन भयो हैन। अब यो स्कोप भनेको चाहिँ नि हामीले हाइड्रोलोजी भन्ने विषयमा के चिज पढ्छौँ त्यो स्कोप हो। के चिज पढिन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ के हो त स्कोप हो। हामीले इस्टिमेसन गर्ने यी प्रोसेसरको बारेमा पढ्ने, फ्लडहरूको चाहिँ इस्टिमेट गर्ने प्रोसेसर पढ्ने र पानीका चाहिँ प्रोपर्टिजहरूको बारेमा अध्ययन गर्ने भनेको चाहिँ स्टडी भयो हैन। त्यो स्टडी गरिसकेपछि त्यसलाई एप्लाई गर्ने भनेको के हो त इन्जिनियरिङ फिल्डमा एप्लाई गर्ने भनेको चाहिँ एप्लिकेसन भयो। यसलाई यसरी बुझ्नुपर्छ ल। स्कोप र एप्लिकेसनको बारेमा यो भयो। साइकल, त्यो हाइड्रोलोजी साइकल भनेको के हो त भन्दाखेरि वाटर साइकल हो। वाटर साइकल भनेको के त भने हाम्रो पृथ्वीमा कहिलेकाहीँ पानी के भइदिन्छ वर्षायाममा जे भएको पानी हुन्छ जताततै जलमग्न हुन्छ। तर हिउँदमा गयो भने त्यही पानी के हुन्छ सुकेर जान्छन्, हाम्रो पहुँचमा नहुन पनि सक्छ। भने यसरी कहिले पृथ्वीमा पानी धेरै हुने, कहिले पृथ्वीमा पानी घट्ने, कहिले बढ्ने यो प्रक्रिया चाहिँ के हुन्छ त भन्दाखेरि पृथ्वी र चाहिँ एटमोस्फियरको बिचमा त्यो अन्तर सम्बन्ध, यो सम्बन्ध के हुन्छ सदियौं कालदेखि चलिआएको छ। कहिले पृथ्वीको पानी लस भएर आकाशमा जान्छ अनि आकाशमा वायुमण्डलमा गइसकेपछि त्यो फेरि त्यहाँ कन्डेन्स भएर फेरि पृथ्वीमा झर्छ, फेरि पृथ्वीमा पानी पलाउँछ, फेरि केही समयपछि फेरि इभ्यापोरेट हुन्छ, फेरि उहाँ कहाँ जान्छ एटमोस्फियरमा जान्छ। अनि पृथ्वीका चाहिँ सोर्सहरू सुक्दै जान्छन्, पानीको मात्रा कम हुन्छ, फेरि कन्डेन्सेसन भएर फेरि पर्छ, फेरि धेरै आउँछ। भनेपछि सिजन अनुसार अब टाइम अनुसार के हुन्छ त भन्दाखेरि कहिले पानी हराउने, कहिले पानी रहने हैन। यस्तो खालको यो प्रक्रिया के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि यो वाटरको ब्यालेन्स पृथ्वी र वायुमण्डल बिचमा वाटरको ब्यालेन्स एउटा मेन्टेन भइरहेको छ, एउटा सर्कल चलिरहेको छ। कहिले पानी माथि एटमोस्फियरमा जाने, कहिले एटमोस्फियरबाट पानी पृथ्वीमा आउने। यसरी यस्तो खालको चाहिँ निरन्तर यो पानीको चक्रलाई कहिले हराउने कहिले पलाउने यस्तो चक्रलाई भन्छ वाटर साइकल अथवा हाइड्रोलोजिक साइकल अथवा हाइड्रोलोजिकल साइकल, जे भने पनि त्यही हो। द वाटर साइकल अल्सो नोन एज द hydrologic cycle or hydrological cycle describe the continuous movement of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into rain or snow in clouds, and fall again to the surface of the earth as precipitation. This process continues forever and ever, maintaining water balance between earth and the atmosphere. Hydrologic cycle involves the processes like evaporation, transpiration, precipitation, interception, runoff, and infiltration. This cycle is divided into three systems. One is atmospheric water system, second is surface water system, and third is subsurface water system. Atmospheric water system uses the processes like precipitation, evaporation, interception, and transpiration, whereas surface water system involves the processes like overland flow, surface runoff, and runoff to the steppes and oceans, whereas the subsurface system uses the processes like infiltration, subsurface flow, groundwater flow, and groundwater recharge. These are the basic principle of hydrological cycle, the maintaining water balance between the earth and the atmosphere, which can be described here by the figure. This figure is due to the sunlight or sun heat, the radiation, the water molecule of the water surface water body may detach from, they may be detached, and the molecule of water changes into the vapor, and that vapor evaporates up to the atmosphere, forming the clouds, and that with low pressure and low temperature at the in the atmosphere, these clouds become severe enough and changes into the water droplets of size 0.1 to 0.3 mm, which is very heavy enough to fall on the surface of the earth. During the falling time, one water droplet may coincide with the another or merge with the another, forming the bigger one. Again, it may break into the smaller water droplets. While falling from the atmosphere to the earth surface, some portion of water again evaporates from the atmosphere again to gain the height again to the condensed position of the atmosphere. In this way, the water droplet falls down, rises up, falls down, rises up, falls down, rises up, and ultimately it falls on the surface of the earth. That is called precipitation. The precipitated water is not all water is not flown to the ocean or sea. Some portion of it gets into the goes into the underground underground surface of earth. That is called the infiltration. The infiltrated portion of the water, which some portion may be left on the pores of the soil, and some infiltrates into the underground aquifers or water table. The infiltrated portion of water into the aquifer or water table is called percolation loss. The absorbed water retained in the soil pores or soil column is called absorption moisture. Some portion of infiltration water that flows in the horizontal direction towards the sea or ocean or rivers, that is called subsurface flow. The portion of water that flows from the surface of the earth is called runoff, surface runoff, and portion of water that flows in the horizontal movement direction inside the earth's surface is called subsurface flow. And that's why various processes involved in the in the hydrological cycle. That is, temperature of water rises due to the radiation from the sun heat. Water molecule changes and vaporize into the atmosphere, and evaporated water is again transported from one place to another place by the wind, and that transported water is hello. Hello, don't disturb me. Otherwise, I'll meet you all. You can only hear my sound. You may not be able to raise question during the lecture hour. Please don't disturb me. Small child is talking here. Don't let him to talk. Please mute your microphone. Please don't disturb me. Now, here this is the cycle, water cycle. Evaporation from the surface of the earth, evaporation from the surface of the ocean or water bodies. Similarly, evaporation from the plant body, which is called transpiration. Evaporation from the water body and land surface is called evaporation. The combined form of evaporation from the land surface and the water surface as well as plant body is called evapotranspiration. These are the terms. Portion of water infiltrated into the soil, into the earth is called infiltration. Portion of water flown from the surface of the earth to the sea or ocean is called surface runoff. Portion of water that interflows horizontally from the underground layer soil towards the sea or ocean or river is called subsurface runoff. And the portion of water that enters into the underground water table is called groundwater groundwater flow. That groundwater flow helps to recharge the underground sources of water. The percolation loss is the water which takes its way towards the underground water table is called percolation loss. And the surface runoff is from the portion of water flowing from the surface of the earth is called surface runoff. These are the terms which are shown in this figure. How evaporation takes place? Evaporation, condensation, formation of water, precipitation back to the earth surface, and again precipitated water again evaporates and condense and precipitates back to the earth surface, and again recharge underground sources as well as surface sources. Again sources water can be utilized. Again ground source can be also utilized, as well as underground source can also be utilized. If we withdraw water from the underground sources only, if there is no recharge, then under the level of the water table of the underground source will be decreased. So if there is no recharge, then one day we cannot abstract water from the underground sources. Hence, it is very important that infiltrated water that percolates into the underground soil, which helps to recharge the underground sources of water. The water cycle, also known as the hydrologic cycle or hydrological cycle, describes the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the earth. The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into rain or snow in clouds, and falls again to the earth's surface as precipitation. This process continues forever and ever, maintaining water balance between earth and the atmosphere. Hydrologic cycle involves the processes like evaporation, transpiration, precipitation, interception, runoff, and infiltration. This cycle is divided into three subsystems: atmospheric water system, precipitation, evaporation, interception, and transpiration. These are called atmospheric water system. Surface water system includes overland flow, surface flow, runoff to stream and oceans are called surface water system, whereas subsurface water system includes the infiltration, subsurface flow, groundwater flow, and groundwater recharge are the subsurface system of the hydrological cycle. Water budget equation. The water budget equation basically related to the law of conservation of mass. That is, if we consider a system of a water body as a storage system, if you consider the water body, then just like lake or pond or sea or any other source of water, there is some water already available in that source, that is the storage water. If at that certain time period, if you want to find any value of evaporation or transpiration or runoff or underground source, underground infiltration, then you can use the continuity equation, that is the law of conservation of mass. This equation can be used, and the balance between the inflow and outflow and change in storage is there. That is, inflow minus outflow is equal to change in storage of water level in that water body, which is described by the water balance equation. This is the water balance equation. If density is same, then volume of water inflow in the system and volume of water outflow from the system will equal to the change in storage of that system. That is, यो भने के हो त भन्दाखेरि, यो वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसनले के भन्छ त भन्दाखेरि, कुनै पनि ठाउँमा कुनै पनि वाटर बडीमा अहिले भइरहेको पानी छ यो समयमा भने, त्यो समयमा त्यो ठाउँमा कति पानी इन्ट्री गर्यो, त्यो ठाउँबाट कति पानी बाहिर गयो भने, कुनै समय पछाडि सर्टेन टाइम इन्टरभल भलको चाहिँ बिचमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ त भन्दाखेरि, त्यो ठाउँको पानी चाहिँ घटबड हुन्छ हैन। त्यो घटबड भएको पानीलाई चाहिँ कसरी देखाउनु त भन्दाखेरि, इन्फ्लो कति भएको छ त्यो ठाउँमा, त्यो ठाउँबाट कति आउटफ्लो भएको छ हैन। इन्फ्लो र आउटफ्लोको आधारमा चाहिँ इन्फ्लो थोरै भयो, आउटफ्लो धेरै भयो भने पानीको लेभल घट्छ है। यदि इनफ्लो धेरै हो आउटफ्लोको तुलना भने पानीको लेभल बढ्छ भनेको स्टोरेज पहिलाको भन्दा स्टोरेज बढ्छ भनेको है। त्यसलाई चाहिँ डिस्क्राइब गर्नको लागि वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसन चाहिँ युज गर्न सकिन्छ अथवा कन्टिन्युटी इक्वेसन इज युज गर्न सकिन्छ। वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसन इज द ल अफ कन्जर्भेसन अफ मास कल्ड कन्टिन्युटी इक्वेसन अर conservation equation. The balance of input and output of water within a given area. Given area means given water body. Given area means given water body. That may be lake, pond, sea, which is the given water body. Input and output of water within a given area of water body at a particular time gives the net change in storage. जस्तो हाम्रो घरमा भनौँ न, हाम्रो घरमा चाहिँ नि ट्याङ्की हुन्छ हैन, खानेपानीको चाहिँ अथवा चाहिँ ट्याङ्की हामी छतमा राख्छौँ। त्यो ट्याङ्कीमा चाहिँ पानी नभरेसम्म त्यो ट्याङ्कीको पानी त हाम्रो टोयलेट बाथरुम किचनमा कहीँ पनि जाँदैन है। अब हामीले चाहिँ इनपुटको रूपमा त्यो ट्याङ्कीमा के गर्छौँ त भन्दाखेरि मोटर लगाएर पानी चाहिँ दिन्छौँ ट्याङ्कीमा। त्यो भनेको इनपुट भयो। त्यो हाम्रो चाहिँ त्यो एरिया भनेको ट्याङ्की भयो, वाटर ट्याङ्क भयो, 1000 लिटरको वाटर ट्याङ्क होला अथवा 500 लिटरको वाटर ट्याङ्क हो, जतिसुकैको होस्, त्यसलाई हामीले के गर्छौँ त भन्दा इनपुटको रूपमा चाहिँ नि मोटर लगाएर चाहिँ पानी चढाउँछौँ हैन। त्यो चढाएको पानी सधैँ त्यही लेभलमा त्यो ट्याङ्कीमा रहँदैन, किनभने कोहीले घरका परिवार कोही कतै नुहाइरहेका होलान्, त्यहाँबाट पानीको यताबाट पानी चढाइरहेका छौँ, कोही चाहिँ बाथरुममा बसेर नुहाइरहेको होला हैन, कसैले चाहिँ उहाँ किचनमा बसेर चाहिँ नि भाँडा माझिरहेको होला, कसैले लुगा धोइरहेको होला, कसैले गार्डनिङमा पानी हालिरहेको होला। हामी जति पानी चाहिँ ट्याङ्कीमा पठाउँछौँ त्यो पानी त त्यहीँ रहिराख्दैन, पठाएको पानी इनपुट भयो हैन। हामीले युज गरेर चाहिँ गएको पानी के भयो, आउटपुट भयो। तर ट्याङ्कीमा पहिले पनि अलिकति लेभलमा पानी हुनसक्छ नि त, थोरै पानी थियो पहिला लेभलमा, हामीले युज गर्नुभन्दा पहिला ट्याङ्कीमा हिजो अस्ति भरेको पानी त हुनसक्छ अलिकति हैन, त्यो भनेको स्टोरेज पानी समथिङ थियो। अब अहिले हामीले चाहिँ ट्याङ्कीमा पानी हाल्यौँ भने त्यो स्टोरेज त बढ्ने भयो, तर त्यही समयमा फेरि हामीले आउटपुट बाहिरबाट चाहिँ पानी पनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ युटिलाइज गर्दै गयो भने इनफ्लो गराएको पानी भन्दा आउटफ्लोको पानी चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ धेरै गरिदियौँ भने भइरहेको चाहिँ लेभलको पानी पनि घट्छ। यदि भइरहेको पानीको लेभलमा इनफ्लो बढी भयो तर चाहिँ एउटा धारा मात्रै खोलिदिएको छ कसैले, अरूतिर चाहिँ नि के छैन, बन्द छन् सबै धाराहरू भने एउटा धाराको पानी र मोटरले छोडेको पानीमा त मोटरले छोडेको पानी बढी फोर्सले गएको हुन्छ त्यो धाराबाट निस्किने पानी भन्दा। भनेपछि अब हाम्रो के भयो त भन्दाखेरि पहिलाको लेभल ट्याङ्कीमा जति थियो त्यसको लेभल भन्दा अब के हुन्छ त, त्यसको लेभल राइज भएर जान्छ भनेको स्टोरेजमा के हुन्छ, चेन्ज आउँछ। पहिलाको लेभल भन्दा बढ्छ, डेल्टा एसको भ्यालु बढ्न सक्छ हैन। यदि चाहिँ नि बढी आउटफ्लो भयो भने डेल्टा एसको भ्यालु के हुन्छ, पहिलाको लेभल भन्दा नि घट्न सक्छ। भने यसरी ब्यालेन्स देखाउनको लागि के को बिचमा त भन्दाखेरि इनफ्लो र आउटफ्लोको ब्यालेन्स चेन्ज इन स्टोरेजले देखाउँछ। त्यो भनेको के हो त भन्दाखेरि वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसन हो। जस्तै यसमा हेऱ्यो भने इनफ्लोको रूपमा हाम्रो वाटर बडीमा के आउन सक्छ त भन्दाखेरि कुनै पनि खोलाहरूले चाहिँ खोलाहरू चाहिँ कुनै पोखरीमा आएर तालमा आएर मिसिएको छ भने खोलाले त्यो तालमा पानी दिन्छ भने त्यो तालको लागि त्यो इनफ्लो हुनसक्छ है। अथवा तालमा माथिबाट पानी पर्दैन, पानी तालमै परेर आयो भने त्यो माथिबाट आकाशबाट परेको पानी पनि त्यो तालको लागि के हुनसक्छ, इनफ्लो हुनसक्छ। पी भनेको प्रिसिपिटेसन हो, आई भनेको इनफ्लो फ्रम द अदर सोर्सेस हैन। आकाशबाट आउने सोर्सभन्दा अन्य सोर्सबाट पनि त्यहाँ त्यो सिस्टममा चाहिँ नि पानी आएको छ भने त्यसलाई हामी इनफ्लो भन्छौँ। माइनस आउटफ्लो भनेको आरजिइटी, आर भनेको रन अफ, त्यो हाम्रो सिस्टमबाट पोखरीबाट पनि पानी बाहिर जान सक्छ, पोखरीबाट पनि पानी बगेर के हुन सक्छ, अर्को पोखरीबाट नै अर्को सानो खोलो चाहिँ गएको हुनसक्छ हैन। आउने खोलो, पोखरीमा पानी आउने खोलो मात्र होइन कि त्यो तालबाट चाहिँ अर्को खोलोतिर जान सक्छ, त्यो भनेको रन अफ भयो। जी भनेको के भयो, ग्राउन्ड इनफ्लो, पोखरीमा जम्मा भएको पानी पोखरी बसेको जमिनबाट पनि सोसेर त अन्डरग्राउन्डमा जान सक्छ, इन्फिल्ट्रेसन हुन सक्छ, त्यो भनेको जी अन्डरग्राउन्ड इनफ्लो के भयो त, अन्डरग्राउन्ड वाटरलाई जी भयो, ग्राउन्ड वाटर भनेर जी भनेको। ई भनेको इभापोरेसन, पोखरी त के छ, एक्सपोज टु द एटमोस्फियर, त्यो कारण घामला चक्ला भने पनि त्यहाँको पानी बाष्पीकरण भएर क्या जान सक्छ, हाम्रो चाहिँ नि वायुमण्डलमा जान सक्छ, लस हुन सक्छ है। टी भनेको के त भन्दाखेरि पोखरीमा पनि विभिन्न किसिमका झारपातहरू हुन सक्छन्, त्यो झारपातहरूले पोखरीको पानी युज गर्छ र आफ्नो बडीबाट चाहिँ फेरि त्यो झारपातको बडीबाट पनि के हुन सक्छ, इभ्यापोरेसन भएर पानी आकाशमा जान सक्छ, वायुमण्डलमा जान सक्छ, त्यसलाई भन्छ ट्रान्सपिरेसन। भनेपछि के त, पी प्लस आई भनेको इनफ्लो टु द लेक अथवा त रिजर्भयर भयो, RGET भनेको लेक अथवा रिजर्भरबाट लस भएर गएको पानी भयो भने यो दुईटा बिचको ब्यालेन्स देखाउनको लागि इनफ्लो माइनस आउटफ्लो इज इक्वल टु चेन्ज इन स्टोरेज। पहिला यो हुनुभन्दा अगाडि हामीले हेरेको समयभन्दा अगाडि त्यो ठाउँको स्टोरेज S1 भ्यालु हुनसक्छ, त्यो तालमा S1 डेप्थको पानी हुनसक्छ। तर पानी परेर हामीले जति समयलाई हामीले हेरेका छौँ, कुनै सर्टेन पिरियडलाई चाहिँ हेरेका छौँ, कति चाहिँ स्टोरेज त्यहाँ चेन्ज भयो भनेर हामीले हेर्छौँ भने त्यो टाइम पिरियडभित्र चाहिँ नि कति पानी आयो कति पानी गयो, र त्यसले गर्दा आउने पानीको मात्रा बढी हो भने डेल्टा एसको भ्यालु बढ्छ, आउने पानीको मात्रा कम छ तर निकास हुनेको पानी चाहिँ निस्किने पानी बढी छ भने डेल्टा एसको भ्यालु के हुन्छ, घट्छ। त्यो बेलामा माइनस डेल्टा एस हुन पनि सक्छ है। इन्फ्लो बढी भयो भने डेल्टा एस प्लस हुनसक्छ, इन्फ्लो कम भयो भने डेल्टा एस के हुनसक्छ, माइनस हुनसक्छ। द्याट इज इन्फ्लो माइनस आउटफ्लो इज इक्वल टु प्लस माइनस चेन्ज इन स्टोरेज हुनसक्छ। इन्फ्लो बढी भयो भने प्लस डेल्टा एस हुन्छ, इन्फ्लो कम भयो भने माइनस डेल्टा एस हुन्छ हैन। यो चिजलाई के देखायो त भन्दाखेरि वाटर ब्यालेन्स इक्वेसनले देखायो है। इफ डेन्सिटी इज सेम देन भोल्युम इन्फ्लो माइनस भोल्युम आउटफ्लो इज इक्वल टु चेन्ज इन स्टोरेज, अथवा मास इन्फ्लो माइनस मास आउटफ्लो इज इक्वल टु चेन्ज इन स्टोरेज। हेन्स can be expressed as P plus I minus R plus G plus E plus T is equal to change in storage delta S, where P is equal to precipitation, G is equal to ground outflow, I is equal to other inflow to the reservoir, E is equal to evaporation loss from the reservoir, T is equal to transpiration loss, R is equal to runoff from the reservoir to the other stream or river. This is the water balance equation. You must know the value P plus I minus R plus G plus E plus T is equal to delta S. This equation is called water balance equation. A change in storage. Inflow minus outflow is equal to change in storage. Now old water balance. This is another heading. Old water balance. This water balance is estimated by the UNESCO. World Water Balance in 1975. The UNESCO has estimated the quantity of water. How it estimated the quantity of water, I don't know. But according to the climate, season, and the study of water resources as well as other things, UNESCO has estimated the volume of water in the different part of the world. Along with the atmosphere. Now, according to it, the ocean area is 361.3 million kilometer square area, which contains the total volume of water as 1338 million kilometer cube volume of water, in which is the water in the ocean is 96.5% of the total volume of water in the world. Now, for groundwater, and the water is divided into two parts. The ocean water is saline water, which is not fit for drinking purpose. This is not the fresh water. This water is saline water mixed with salt and other impurities. And this is the ocean water is saline water. But groundwater, it may be fresh or saline water. Some groundwater is saline, that can be not be used for drinking purpose. Some is fresh, which can be used for drinking purpose. That's the area is 134.8, and the volume of million kilometer cube is 10.53 million kilometer cube. Total percentage of water is fresh water is ground is 0.76% only. For saline water, 0.93%. Among which 30.1% of total volume of water of the world is 30.1% of the total groundwater is fresh water. Now, soil moisture, the water which is written in the pores of the soil, the area is million kilometer square, 82 million kilometer square, and the volume of water contained in soil moisture as 0.0165 million kilometer cube, in which the percentage of water in the world is 0.0012%. Now, polar water. The polar water that is written on the surface of the earth, which is in the form of ice or ice, so we cannot use it as drinking purpose. It can be used as drinking purpose only after boiling it, and that's why polar water is polar region. The area of polar region is 60 million kilometer square. On 16 million kilometer square, the 24.023 million kilometer cube volume of ice, and this is the total volume of water in the world is 1.7%, and the percentage of fresh water in the polar region is 68.6%. Among the 24.023 million kilometer cube of polar ice water, 68.6 percent of 24.023 million kilometer cube can be utilized for drinking purpose if it can be melted. Now, other ice and snow, rather than polar region, the ice and snow may in the other region also, where the area is 0.3 million kilometer square. The volume of water estimated in such region as 0.3 million kilometer cube, and which is the total percentage of 0.025%, and 1% of such water can be used as a drinking purpose as fresh water. In lakes, the lake contains the both fresh and saline water. The lake area is 1.2 million kilometer square, and saline water content area is 0.8 million kilometer square, where the fresh water volume is 0.091 million kilometer cube, whereas the saline water is 0.0854 million kilometer cube. The percentage of water for the fresh water is 0.007% of the total percentage of water in the world, whereas the saline water is of the lake is 0.006%. Total fresh water for the lake is 0.26% only, that of the total fresh water. Now marshes are the swampy land. The water which is written in the swampy land area is 2.7 million kilometer square, whereas the volume is 0.0115 million kilometer cube, and this is the total percentage it covered is 0.008%, and the fresh water on such marshes is only 0.03% of the total fresh water. Now, river water, biological water, atmospheric water, all these waters are tabulated here in the table, which is given by the UNESCO for the water balance of the world. This is the world water balance provided by the UNESCO. Now, similarly, if you consider the total water in the area, that water is 1386 million kilometer water. Fresh water on land is 148.8 million kilometer square land area, and the 35 million kilometer water is as considered as fresh, among which is of 2.5%. Total quantity of water estimated in the world is 1386 million kilometer cube, among which 96.5% is saline ocean water is saline water is 1337.5 million kilometer cube. On other hand, about 1% water is saline, that is land water is 1%, remaining 1% of water on the land is saline, remaining 2.5% water is fresh, among which 35 million kilometer cube water is fresh. The fresh water is available on the surface of the land, as well as remaining in the frozen form in the ice, and polar region some water into the underground water, also fresh water inside the groundwater, the fresh water. The glaciers, polar region water content is shown here. Among 10% million kilometer liquid water in ground, 50% is available above 800 meter, and 50% of water is available below 800 meter. Global annual water balance, how water is balanced globally. Area million kilometer square 361.3, 148.8 for land. Precipitation per year in the ocean is 1270 mm, whereas on the land is 800 mm. Evaporation from the total evaporation from the ocean in the year is 1400 mm, and land is 484 mm. Runoff to ocean mm per year is there is no from the land, runoff from the land to the ocean is 316 mm per year. If you add the precipitation amount of the ocean is 1270 mm. This is the entry of water into the ocean or sea, 1270 mm. But the if you consider the runoff from the land is 316 mm. Runoff from the land to the sea or ocean or river is 316 mm. If this runoff is also the input of the ocean, then you can see at that 1270 plus 316, you will get the 1586 mm inflow. But evaporation from the ocean is 1400 mm now. This, if you deduct 1500 minus 1400, 1586 minus 1486, you will get the value of 186 mm. That is the level of the level of water is being rise day by day in the ocean. So this water may this water may help to sink the countries near the ocean. So there is a risk of sinking such countries near the ocean due to the rising water level of the ocean and day by day. See the which is also, this figure is also provided by the UNESCO 1975. This is the estimation. This is not the actual value, but this is the their estimation. This is the rough estimation from the UNESCO. Now, development of hydrometeorology study in Nepal. How the hydrological and meteorological study was developed in Nepal. What is the history of hydrometeorology in Nepal? What is the history of hydrological study in Nepal? These questions can be dealt from the answer here. Nepal has short history of hydrometeorology. It doesn't have long history because we don't know how to take the hydrometeorological data. We don't have any hydrometeorological station before 1947. We don't have any hydrometeorological station. Before the for construction of the Kosi barrage in 1940, and the Indian government asked Nepal government to provide the hydrometeorological data of the Kosi river for the construction of the Kosi barrage. Indian government asked Nepal government to provide the hydrological data of the Kosi river to construct the Kosi barrage. At that time, Nepal government did not have such records. And why this record is necessary? Why it is important? At that time, Nepal government felt the need of measurement of hydrometeorological parameters of the different rivers, which is essential for the construction of the project related to water. So, with the help of Indian government in 1947, the establishment of hydrological stations are done. Establishment of hydrological stations are done along the Kosi tributaries, along the Kosi tributaries such as Bara Kshetra at Kosi, Kampughat, Sunkosi, and the Mulghat Tamur. These three stations were established by the Indian government in 1947. But Nepal government doesn't have any idea how to take those hydrological data. How hydrological data have to be calculated. Indian government assists the Nepalese people to take the data provided with some equipment and instrument in those stations. After 1956, The Indian government also helped to establish the meteorological station. Meteorological stations means and the meteorology data which refers to the season and the climate. The data which refers to the season and climate is called meteorological data. This meteorological observation, hydrological observations, how to establish a meteorological observation. The Indian government helped to observe such stations in 1956. Although the development starts from the 1947 to 1956, the record of data were not kept were not kept kept as a record. The data and the records of the data were not kept in the preserved way. That data, the records were not gathering, the records were not stored. That's why from the Karnali Basin, that when the project was initiated by the USAID and the government to have the project to have the project in the Karnali Basin. At that time, they started hydrological and meteorological activities in organized way in 1962 because we don't have the organized data of the hydrology of the Karnali River. At that time, USAID helped and USAID helps to establish the hydrometeorological data, hydrometeorological stations, and to take the how to take the hydrometeorological meteorological data and how to store that data, how to prevent that data using the program, and from that time the Department of Electricity was and is under the Department of Electricity, the hydrometeorological record keeping started from 1962 only. Then we can say that we have the record of hydrometeorological data from 1962 only. Although we have started from 1947, we don't have any data. There is no data record of the hydrometeorological parameters that were measured at that time. But from 1962, only the hydrometeorological data is measured and recorded in the recorded. In 1966, Department of Hydrometeorology was established. In 1962, hydrometeorological study was carried by under the Department of Electricity, which was assessed by the USAID program. But in 1966, it is felt that Electricity Department, the hydrometeorological department must be formulated separately without with must be developed separately to study the hydrometeorological data of the nation. So in 1966, Department of Hydrometeorology was established under the Ministry of Water and Power, and publication of hydrometeorological data started. That is, the data which were recorded are published in the form of booklet. It started from 1966 only. In the form of data, the hydrometeorological data which were recorded are published in the form of booklet in the organized way from 1966 only. Hydrometeorological data were published from 1966. 1972, Department of Hydrometeorology is merged. That is, again this department which was separated from the Department of Electricity and giving its own departmental name, as Department of Hydrometeorology, providing with its own department as Department of Hydrometeorology. Again, it is merged to the Irrigation Department. That department is again merged to the Irrigation Department in 1972. And again in 1988, after 16 years merging with the Department of Irrigation, it again separated from the Irrigation Department. And in 1988, in 1993, Hydrometeorological Data Management Project was started. The Hydrometeorological Data Management Project started in 1993, and water resource strategy was prepared in 2002, and National Water Plan was published in 2005. From water resource strategy TG 2002 and National Water Plan published 2005, they formulate the different rules and regulations regarding the use of water resources. And now from this period, the project should be carried out according to the norms and rules of the water resource strategy as well as the National Water Plan. The water resource project must follow the norms and rules of the water resource strategy and water resource plan published in 2005. While performing the water resources project, we must follow the rules and regulations of National Water Plan as well as water resource strategy. That is, in that strategy and plan, there is the conditions, different conditions have to be met. Different conditions such as EIA have to be done. Environmental impact assessment means while the project which is constructed on the water may not disturb the environment. Environmental impact assessment must be carried out. If it is felt that the project may impact the environment, then that project cannot be constructed over there. That's why the control of project and providing sufficient preventive measures. By providing sufficient preventive measures, we can start the project on such water project, on such water resources. After furnishing all the strategy, water strategy and the plan, according to the plan, what should we do, what should we not, then if we fulfill all those parameters that is concerned with such plans and strategies, then only the water resource project can be constructed over there. These are the rules and regulations and development. Major basins of Nepal are Kosi, Narayani, Karnali, Mahakali, Bagmati, West Rapti, Kangai and Kamala. These are the main rivers of Nepal, and all the water resource projects related to the water are basically constructed in them. Kosi, Karnali, Narayani, Karnali, Mahakali. Kosi, Narayani means Gandagi. Gandagi river is concerned at the Narayani basin. Kosi river, Kosi basin, Narayani basin, Karnali basin, Mahakali basin, Bagmati basin. Bagmati river up to Bagmati river flows towards the Gandagi zone. From the Bagmati to Bagmati zone to Gandagi Janakpur zone. This is the Bagmati river. Bagmati project also there. West Rapti is the Rapti river in the Dang district. This is the West Rapti, Kankai and Kamala in the western part of Nepal. Kamala is at eastern part, and Kankai also at eastern part. These are the rivers and these are the basic Kankai, Mechi, Mechi River basin is Konkai basin. The Kamala basin. These are the Konkai and Kamala are at the eastern side, West Rapti, Bagmati, Mahakali, west part, Karnali west part, Kosi eastern part, and Narani central region and western region. These are the basins. The basin means the catchment area of the river. The river which catches the water flown from that area is called basin. The basin means the maximum water retained available to the river from the surrounding land. That is called basin. So it is named as under the name of rivers or basins. According to WMO, World Meteorological Organization, according to the World Meteorological Organization, recommendation for our country, which lies in mountainous region, our country which lies in mountainous region, should cover the area between 300 to 1000 square kilometer by a hydrological station. One hydrological station must cover the area of 300 to 1000 square kilometer area to give the relevant hydrometeorological data, to collect the and to measure the relevant hydrometeorological data by a station. But in our present context, we don't have much more hydrometeorological station with the sophisticated instrument. We have only 43 fully equipped stations, which, according to WMO, if we consider the total area of Nepal as uh, uh, one lakh 70,161 square kilometer, then 43 fully equipment covers the area of 3423 square kilometer, which is very large in compared to 300 to 100 square kilometer, more than 3 times greater. So these stations collect the data. These stations collect the data of the Nepal. That is, one station covers more than 3000 square kilometer. How can we say that the data collected by such stations is reliable for the hydrological purpose, for measuring the hydrological purpose data? That's why this does not fulfill the recommendation of the WMO. This does not fulfills the recommendation of WMO, which says that we are not able to maintain the norms of WMO recommendation. This shows that our hydrometeorology history has short history. The history of hydrometeorological history in Nepal is very short. We should take the hydrological or meteorological data for the design of the hydraulic project. Large project, we must have the records of more than 30, 50 years, 60 years records. We need such type of record. Or in the foreign countries, the record of 100 years is studied. The behavior of that river for constructing the project on such a river. More than 100 years data records are studied, but we don't have high history of data, because if we consider the 1962 as the pioneer year for the development of hydrometeorological study, 1966, if we consider that, then today is 2021. If you deduct 2021 from 2021 to and deduct 1962, you may not you will get not more than 60 years of records. We need 100 years of record for the reliable data. Although we have 43 fully equipped equipment, what they do not provide us reliable record of the hydrometeorology of the of such major basins. That's why we have the short history of the hydrology study in Nepal. You can see here, and with this you may be asked to ask in short answer question how development of hydrometeorology study in Nepal. What is the history of hydrology in Nepal? What is the history of study of hydrometeorology study in Nepal? And these are the questions that may be asked in the examination. So you can write in short for this for this question. Now this is now I have finished the chapter 1. Chapter 1 we study about the definition of hydrology. We study application, use and scope of hydrology. We study about the water balance equation. We study about the world water balance. We studied about the development of hydrometeorology study in Nepal. These are the content of first chapter. I have finished because it contains only 2-3 hours, which is not so important in the terms of final examination. It doesn't have so much a numerical problem. One numerical problem may be asked from the water balance equation only. That's why I complete this chapter first. This is the simple chapter. So तिम्रो जम्माले मैले भनेको कुरा बुझ्यौ? यो सिम्पल च्याप्टर हो, 1 नम्बर च्याप्टर. यसमा खासै त्यस्तो छैन गाह्रो, हैन? यो थ्योरिटिकल पोर्सनहरु मात्रै छ, सरफेसली छ. त्यो हुनाले 2 घण्टा 3 घण्टा कति टाइम ड्युरेसन छ. यसको अझै न्युमेरिकल प्रोग्राम गरेको छैन. यो 2 घण्टाको यो 2 पिरियडको समयमा मैले थ्योरिटिकल पार्ट सकेँ. अब अर्को दिन म च्याप्टर 1 को चाहिँ केही न्युमेरिकल पार्टहरु गराउँछु, है? त्यसपछि हाम्रो च्याप्टर 1 सकिन्छ. अनि त्यसपछि च्याप्टर 2 च्याप्टर 3 गर्दै म अगाडि बढ्छु, है? अब कहिलेकाहीँ चाहिँ थ्योरी सँगसँगै चाहिँ नि न्युमेरिकल प्रोब्लमहरु जान सक्छ. कहिले चाहिँ नि न्युमेरिकल प्रोब्लमहरु मात्रै पनि हुन सक्छ. त्यसरी चाहिँ यो कोर्स सकाउने हिसाब किताबले म पढाउँछु. अब आजलाई यति नै भयो. अब अर्को दिन पढाउँला. च्याप्टर 1 को थ्योरिटिकल पार्ट सकियो. न्युमेरिकल पार्ट अलिकति बाँकी छ. त्यो न्युमेरिकल पार्ट अर्को दिन चाहिँ यसो 1.5 घण्टाको क्लास भयो भने 2 पिरियडमा मैले त्यो न्युमेरिकल पार्ट नै भ्याउँछु अनि हाम्रो च्याप्टर 1 सकिन्छ. त्यसपछि च्याप्टर 2 3 4 हुँदै हामी अगाडि बढ्छौँ. ल आजलाई यति नै भयो. अब तिमीहरूले मैले दिएको यो नोट तिमीहरूलाई चाहिँ पछि म सेन्ड गर्छु. यसलाई मैले चाहिँ नि पीडीएफ मा कन्भर्ट गर्छु. अहिले मेरो चाहिँ यो पावर पोइन्टमा छ. यसलाई पीडीएफ मा कन्भर्ट गरेर तिमीहरूको